Hey guys, and welcome back to another Databits video featuring vintage electronics. Today we have a Radio Shack DuoFone automatic telephone answering system. It's catalog number 43-250. Now, back when I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones. I know, I'm old as dirt. But we only had phones in our houses, and they were all connected by cables or wires. And the only way for you to get voicemail from people was to manage it yourself through a machine. So if you wanted voicemail, you had to buy a machine to take up those voicemails for you. Now today we have voicemail, which is handled in the cloud. It's handled by your phone provider. But again, back then, it was up to us. So you had a lot of choices, especially when you went to your local Radio Shack store. And one of your choices was the DuoFone line of automatic telephone answering systems. Now, what makes it a system is the fact that it has two tape decks in one. What makes this particular model unusual is that the tape decks don't have replaceable tape in them or accessible tape in them. It was almost like it was designed by Apple. They didn't want you to get in there and touch anything, so it was all sealed up inside. But there are two individual tape decks in here. One involves a little reel-to-reel system using cassette-based tape, and it also has one that loops around and allows you to record your greeting. So there were two recordings, the recording that greeted your caller, and then another system which allowed it to record the message that they left for you. Now, later answering machines were based on either compact cassettes, or MicroCassettes. Some of them even just had one cassette in them and a system that allowed it to use different parts of the tape as the call came in. I had one of those when I was a young adult. Why look at this DuoFone? Well, because it's stinking cool. Whoever designed this thing was a genius, okay? And it was not designed by Apple in California, I promise. So here it is, the DuoFone answering machine. And what I really like about this particular machine is that it's so clean. Let me show you some of the user features of this particular unit. Now, the connector that plugs it into the wall is kind of a funky one. It's this four-prong adapter or four-prong connector. It has the ability for you to plug this into the wall, yet have another jack there for your telephone to plug into, so you're not losing a jack in the process. So there's that part. The system is laid out very simply. We have our controls here for playback, reset, and receive. We have our switch to switch between the DuoFone and the telephone. When it's on telephone, it's ready to answer calls as long as you have this in the receive selector position. You have a fast play that allows your caller's recordings to sound like chipmunks, so you can kind of buzz through those ones that are really boring. In here we have our message maker, and we can hit that button there to activate the recording of our outgoing message. Our outgoing message is recorded onto a strand of tape that is in a loop, so that each time you record, it doesn't have to be rewound. It simply comes back around to where it started. There is no place to plug in a power outlet on this particular machine. And if we look at the bottom of it here, you'll see that there is a burn mark on the bottom. And I'm not sure what that's about, but it looks like somebody took a soldering iron and just kind of strolled across the back of it there. Right here is where we put our batteries. Again, this is the only method of powering this unit is batteries. And it came with a transit screw. This transit screw was right here in this well, and you had to take that out in order to put your batteries in. So apparently that kept some part of the mechanism safe in the transition from the factory to your home. Let me show you some of the materials that came with this. And I'm not sure if this particular one actually goes with it, but we have an ownership registration certificate. But down here it says Owner Registration General Electric Company, Housewares Business Division. So again, not sure if this was supposed to be in this because, yeah, look up here at my thumb, spray iron. So yeah, my guess is that just landed in there somehow magically. But here we have some information that is from your local Radio Shack store. To protect your purchase, keep this card because this equipment is guaranteed from defect for 90 days from the date of purchase. So what you should do is fill out the other side of this card and keep it for your records. And somebody did not do that. That was not good. Here is the original owner's manual that came with it. This is the, again, telephone answering system. And within it, we're going to learn how to set the unit up. It's going to show us where we put our batteries. It's going to give you some options for wiring it to the wall. Now, obviously, this particular standard of plug did not stay with us. We replaced it with a little RJ, what is it, RJ32, something like that. And you plug that in, and at one point in my life, we had adapters for those because we lived in a house where all of the wall jacks were those 4 prongs, and in order to use a modern phone, you had to have the adapter. Apparently back then we hadn't set that standard yet. So here's all the basic parts. We have the message maker tape viewing window. We have the C button, the A-B switch, the message counter window, and we have the message flag window, and of course the 4-pin phone jack. Let's put some batteries in this unit and see what it will do. Die hard first, Rayovac second, and die hard again. There we go. All alkaline. Okay to mix alkaline together with other brands of alkaline. Not supposed to mix rechargeable batteries with unrechargeable batteries or heavy-duty batteries with alkaline, but you can mix alkaline together with alkaline. Good grief, that thing's hard to get on there. All right, flip it over, and let's see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and put it into the DuoFone mode. Click it into receive. All right, we get nothing there. All right, so how about just play? All right, I'm hearing a little bit of an air noise here from the speaker, which tells us that our amplifier is more than likely working. Let's see what happens when we switch this. Did you guys see that? So apparently that's the button to hit record. And when I hit it, nothing is happening. So this selector switch is going to need to be cleaned with some contact cleaner. And the motor that's in it may be seized up just from sitting for centuries without being used, from being stuck inside of a tomb known as a box and not being used at all. There's even a little lock in place there, so you can't close this lid unless you put it back into the B setting. So apparently A is to record your greeting, B is to put it into a mode where it will actually play the greeting when your callers call. So now it's time to take it apart. I can't wait to show you what's inside this thing. Sometimes these screws correspond to taking the unit apart. Sometimes they just correspond to holding a bunch of little feet in. So I'm using my Radio Shack brand jeweler's screwdriver here to take this apart. Foreign and domestic patents have been applied for, which is always good. See that right here? And guess what else? This was made in Japan, as noted right there on the back here. So I've taken those 4 screws out. What do you guys think? Should I take these 2 here out as well? There's 2 there. Let's go ahead and do it. These appear to be machine screws. Yep, and long, for that matter. Now, if I remember, and that's a far back way to remember, this cover part is just going to come right off and lift off the bottom part, if we're lucky. Okay, it feels like there's something back in the back end still holding it together. I bet it's in the battery compartment. We've already put the batteries in. Oh my gosh! Oh, that is ridiculous. Yes, I do see a screw down inside here. Not sure if you guys can see it in your view. There is one screw right here. Yep, little machine screw as well. All right. Flip her back over. And let's see if we can get her open. Uh-oh, something's happening. Something's happening! Looks like this volume control is getting stuck on its way up. Yep, there is a little tiny flathead screw right there that's going to need to come out. Just so happens I have one with me here. My jeweler's screwdriver kit from my local Radio Shack store. So let's take that out. Now let's see what we got. Oh, it's coming off. It's coming off. And there it is, guys. Look at this awesome mechanism. So it appears to be a rim drive reel-to-reel tape machine. So the rim drive motor is right here in the middle. Move my hand around. So the rim drive motor is right here. You can see a spindle sticking up here, another spindle sticking up here. Here's our tape loop that loops around the system here, goes around that wheel, and you can see the flag there that tells you when the beginning of your message or the start of your message has been reached. Our flag is just a little movable black piece right there. There's a little switch here that apparently shuts the system off once the take-up spindle is full. We got a tape head here and a little pad there to push on it. So very cool. Here's that volume controller we took the knob off of here. There is the audio head for this loop of tape. There's our controls there and a switch. There's our take-up spindle, take-up reel, and you can see the motor, the drive motor down in there. This is not a very high quality drive motor. There's the wheel that's carrying the endless loop of tape around this bunch of pulleys here, and goes back up, loops around, little pad right there, as you can see. So our audio heads are here. Here's the one for our playback, and our outgoing message is right there. And then this is our switch that apparently is making all the noise. This thing right here. So, yep. Oh, no, it's this switch that's making all the noise. Sorry. So that's our noisy switch. So we've got to see what is going on with this motor and why it is not turning. We need that motor to turn. It's going to do all of the action for us. It appears as though our chassis can be removed with several screws here. So I'm going to use my power screwdriver to remove them. There's one. This looks like one over here too. It's got some green Loctite that has been applied there to keep the screws from moving while you're in transit. Although I don't see why they would move that much, but hey, you know, got to do what we got to do. Here's another one here. Take that one out. Hopefully this will allow us access to the bottom of the unit. And although it looks like that motor is held in by a clamp there, and there's a spring, but we're still going to need to get underneath here in order to spray the switch that's given us so much trouble. Oh, this will allow us to see the circuit board on the bottom. Here it comes. Here it comes to save the day. So there's our bottom. There's our drive motor there. Some capacitors hanging out on the side there. And a little pivot there to pivot it from one side to the other, looks like, for rewind and fast forward. Looks like some of the grease is still good. That's promising. And here's our amplifier board here with the Japan mark on it as well. Looks like there was some after manufacturing or after design re-engineering there with some resistors added to the bottom. So there's the whole thing, guys. Pretty simply made. So we'll go ahead and lay this back down in there. We have a speaker underneath the top right there, and it's made by Pioneer. How about that? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the motor off camera, and I'll see what I can come up with. Here's something you might find interesting. Here is the erase head. Right here, just a little magnet that sticks out on the tape right there that erases it just before it records it. And what controls that is this switch. So when I move it out of the way, it's in playback. When I flip it over here, it's recording, and it's also erasing what is on the tape. Isn't that crazy? Very, very simple operation there. The other thing you may have noticed in that earlier view was that the tape had flipped, and this is the side we should see. So there's our yellow marker telling us that our tape has reached its either beginning or end, kind of both. And when this wheel turns here, that is what is driving the tape around. The other thing was the tape wouldn't move. It was actually stuck to the audio head, and you can see right here where a little bit of the magnetic particles were ripped off the tape head there because it was stuck in that spot for so long. All right, I got her down here on the workbench and got a little bit of life to come through this thing just after spraying some of this Radio Shack brand non-flammable control contact cleaner and lubricant in there. So let's see what we got. Didn't have to do anything to the motor, at least not yet, but interesting stuff going on here. So let's take a listen. There's a little bit of a preview message on here. I guess it's something that you could use for your own purposes, although I don't know how you transfer it from this tape to our loop tape, but let's take a listen, see what it sounds like. I have to hold this playback control somewhere in between to get the sound to come through.
Automatic telephone answering device. At the tone, you have 30 seconds to leave your name, phone number, and message. Thank you.
So I spent about 2 hours off camera or more trying to get this thing to operate, and it just simply doesn't want to work completely. So it may have some circuitry problem, but the reason the motor itself wasn't turning was because of the contacts being dirty underneath this switch right here. So what I did in order to make a recording on here to give you an idea of what it might have sounded like back then to have someone leave you a message, I rigged up this microcassette recorder here. So I took this microcassette recorder and I ran this wire directly to the audio head in this thing, okay? And then took that wire and soldered it to the back of the head here to this play and record head right here so that I could essentially record something onto the tape and give you an idea of what it would sound like to actually get a message on it. The greeting system, this part here that we've talked about a couple times, just simply is not operable. There's something wrong functionally with it, and I just gave up trying to figure it out. But I will say this, I don't think this answering machine was ever used. The reason I say that is because there are no messages on this tape at all. Other than that pre-recorded one that we heard earlier, the tape was blank. So very, very interesting. I'll also note that on this tape here, the one that does the greeting here, you'll see that there is a piece of foil tape right there. And there's actually 2 sensors on it to apparently tell the machine when to start or stop. One is here and one is down here. So very much like an 8-track system where the foil tells the machine to change tracks. This one tells it to stop, or apparently to, I don't know why there would be 2 of them. Maybe one of you guys know. The other interesting thing is we saw an erase head that was just a little magnet on a rod, essentially, or a stick. There's one here and there's also one here. And the bummer thing about it is whenever you're recording or playing back your greeting, it turns on this reel-to-reel tape machine, and with this engaged, starts erasing stuff. So basically, if you had a message on there that you were trying to keep, it would erase it That's just dumb. So for simplicity's sake, there are some sacrifices made in the design that would have been annoying to the person using this on a regular basis. I wanted to play this little goofy tape that I made on here for you, but before I do that, I want to thank some people who are Patreon sponsors. I'm going to go ahead and put your names up on the screen here. So thank you guys for supporting me through Patreon, and thank the rest of you who just watch my videos and support me in that way. It is very much appreciated. All right, so enough of that. We're going to go ahead and play you a message on here, just like you would have heard one back in the day.
Hi everybody. I wanted to demonstrate how this thing might have worked originally, but unfortunately the electronics are too far gone, so I used an external amplifier that is inside a microcassette recorder to make this recording for you. So what I did want to do is perhaps demonstrate what a recording of a message on this machine might have sounded like. So it might sound like this. Beep! Bob, this is Jim. I left my dog in your garbage disposal, and I'm sorry, but I think he's not going to survive in there, so if you would give me a call back. I'm at 555-1212. Please, we've got to get together and get my dog out of your garbage disposal. Thank you. Goodbye.
And this will conclude our video about the Radio Shack DuoFone answering machine. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. There's a lot of great videos on my channel about crazy ancient recording technologies. Please share this video with a friend and leave some comments below. Again, thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for being a Patreon member if you are one. And I will see you next time.
And I'm sorry, but I think he's not going to survive.